JB here, June 11th, 2024. I have about 56 minutes to the close. Really quick talk about the markets, some names I traded today. Look forward to the next couple days, talk a little bit about that and go from there. But take a look at the S&P. Well, the SPY reversed morning losses. You thought, okay, this is the start of maybe some kind of decent pullback into the Fed meeting tomorrow and CPI data. And what does the market do? Bounces off lows, hits highs around 230 here, and it's chopping around right at all-time highs. So just impressive. Seems like anytime it looks like the market's ready to falter, buyers come in. And we'll find out tomorrow with the CPI data if that comes in line or slightly cooler than expected. The Fed paints that picture of two cuts, with the first one coming September. Maybe that 540, 545 handle on the SPY comes quick. Upper Bollinger Band on the SPY right now is 537.25. So always an area I'm looking at as possible resistance. We've came up around 535, 536 over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions, right up to the upper Bollinger Band. See if I can post that in the chat room, which I probably can. So we'll see what maybe let's see. Sorry. uh, Chop here today. I wouldn't call chop, but we are slightly in the green. And then positive comments from Powell and decent CPI, and we can start to head higher. Another good thing here, and I keep talking about the small caps. Well, not the good thing, but the small caps have reversed lows, but they're holding the lower Bollinger Band, which again, I think there's more legs on the rally if the small caps can finally get their act together. 201.67 on the IWM. That's kind of the spot I'm looking at. So those are a couple things I'm looking at. Again, big CPI data tomorrow, 8:30. Fed meeting, Fed statement 2 o'clock. Then you have Powell, 2:30. Should be interesting. Probably the most volatile the market will be uh, since maybe a couple weeks ago. All right, so that's that. Apple's the story. I posted on the watch list this morning. I didn't talk about really getting in an Apple position, but talked about the how some analysts were saying this was the next leg for Apple, right? The big piece, Apple is first getting phones in people's hands, and the refresh cycle every couple iterations, someone upgrades their phone, upgrades. So they got those folks into the Apple ecosystem. Then once they did that, then they got them into iTunes, right? The App Store. So they were able to start to grow that and monetize that, and then the Apple Plus and all those things. So now you have this AI, and I guess it's construed more bullish than I thought it was going to be. Uh, Talks about the partnership or integrating OpenAI, and then some of these uh, apps and things like that are not going to be available to folks who don't have an M1 chip and above, iPhone 5 and above, iPhone 15 above. So are people going to be forced to upgrade? So maybe this is a new upgrade cycle for Apple. So I think all that, you piece that all together, and I start seeing it going. It's 193. Let's see, where did it open? Because I don't even have it up on my. Yeah, it's like 191.48 or so yesterday. Let's see, where am I? Sorry, folks. Yeah, it's like 193 and change at the open, and it just there wasn't really any red candles. I'm thinking that this might be the moment that Apple really starts to break out. So I can't remember the last time I traded Apple, but if I added some spec 202.50 calls, I probably in hindsight should have got a heck of a lot more and went up to 205s. And then Apple just kept going to 195, 198, then over 200, and it's still going. It's at 205 right now. So I locked in different tranches, I guess you would call it, as Doug Cass would say. Locks the calls in on the way up to find a little block over 1,000%, and then I went and got some 212.50 strikes, only because I didn't want to be in a situation where Apple continued to run and I'm kicking myself. So I took some of the profits, rolled them in a little bit into the 212.50s, and then locked some of those in for 100%. So at least I'll be able to sleep decent tonight without worrying if the stock continues to rally tomorrow, which it certainly can. I was looking at the 202.50s, they were 450 or 4. They might have went up to $5, but not going to cry over spilled milk. But now you'll see all these headlines over, tonight and tomorrow. The biggest move for Apple since, I think they haven't been the biggest S&P 500 winner since November of 2021. So Apple's not led the S&P in nearly 3.5 years. That's pretty remarkable. Uh, their largest market cap since July of 2023. Some of the reason is because Apple buys back a heck of a lot of shares. So as their outstanding share count goes down, their market cap goes down. Um, so there's all these records people are going to point to, but just a monster rally. And then now you have to start thinking, is this going to overtake Microsoft? But I'm not going to sit here and think about that. I'll just hold the rest of my 21250s and move along. So that's Apple. Awesome to be able to finally try. I can't remember last time I traded Apple. It had to be it had to be like a split ago, at least. All right, so that's Apple. And also, if you take a look at the long-term view, you start looking at the August of 2023. It's pretty much chopped since then. And then the big pullback when we had the China news, March, April, everybody's concerned that China's going to have a big impact on Apple's earnings. Apple came out with earnings that were decent. They weren't the best, but the stock still rallied. 165, I think it hit. And now take a look at it now, up 40 bucks from that. All right, so that's Apple. Not going to talk too much about Apple anymore. Adobe finally showing some signs here, all the way down to 456 and change at about 1245, and now it's up here at 462. Still going to hold the strikes. They have earnings after close Thursday, with the plan being that I'll either lock most or all of the strikes in before the report. The ideal scenario is that the premiums ramp up enough where I can lock some of the calls in to cover cost, hold a few in to the earnings, because I think Adobe, I'm not saying it was the sell-off after its last earnings was unwarranted, but I do think there's an opportunity, especially if there's decent earnings, decent guidance as a bounce. It probably gap fills at least up to 540. So that's kind of the thought process there on Adobe. I'll continue to hold those strikes. URI just disappointing. What else to say here? It's hitting lows right now. It just hit the low of the day, 625.07. It's down 3%. No news, no catalyst to speak of. I don't know if it's a sector kind of move or what have you, but very disappointing, especially with that JPM upgrade last week. Hit it 620 or so, maybe at 621. Maybe that's the bottom, and then it can start to bounce. Not going to look to add anything just yet, but still bullish the name, and I think it heads back over 700 bucks in the coming weeks. Spotify also disappointing. I mean, I thought, considering what it did last time they announced the price increases in Europe, the stock soared, then gave some of the gains back. Then last week they announced the price increases in the US. The stock soared all the way up to all-time highs, I think at 332 or so. And then this morning they announced a new premium tier base. Stock gapped higher, was rallying in the pre-market, and then it opened all the way up to 319.38. I thought, wow, here it's ready to go. The premiums were pretty high, so I kind of waited, and all of a sudden I just pulled back. And then by 950 or so, it was under 307.50. So I'll probably just wait for now, but it could be a nice lotto, especially if the Fed is somewhat dovish. The CPI numbers coming good tomorrow. Spot could reverse course and start to head to a new all-time high. So I'll definitely keep that one on watch into next week. And I wouldn't say last but not least, but I added some put hedges on Lam Research. I was, with the market selling off at the open, hitting lows. I was looking at some possible trades to to have a hedge, right, to protect myself for downside just in case things really started to accelerate. We were at 531 on the SPY. I think we had 531 and change. What did we hit? Right, I think it was right after the open. I have to pull this all the way back because we hit 532.05. So that was at 950. So I didn't want to be in a situation where I was calling my pants down. So added some of those inexpensive puts. This the thing I would say is that I've done this with Broadcom over the last couple of weeks, and every time I did it, and I did these rants in the afternoon on either Tuesday or Wednesday, by the time Friday came along, the puts were paying. So I don't want the market. I'm hoping the market holds up and the calls positions I'm in do well, but at the same token, if things do get a little dicey, I think the LRCX puts offer a decent risk reward for a hedge position. I think that's about it. Turns I was talking about at the end of the day yesterday. I talked about this morning on the rant. Here it is at 7:30. So great sign. It's over $7. I think it just holds 7. It's off the races to 8. C3 AI, C3 AI is the ticker. 3155 here. I was looking at the end of the day yesterday for some potential calls. It's such a fickle name. It seems so volatile. It could hit $32 and then reverse course all the way back down under 30. So I think this morning, yeah, it was 3150. It hit 3156. Let's see. Yeah, at 9:37 it was 3157, and then within a matter of 15 minutes was down to 30.57, reversed $1. So an over 3% reversal in a couple minutes, which makes it a difficult name to trade. So I'll probably just hold what I have for now and revisit. I'm trying to think of some of the other names we have. URI. GameStop reversing course. Just when everybody thought that Roaring Kitty was going to lose all his profits, here it is, 28.90. There's no real news or catalyst I can see. AMC was going, so it just seems to be, those the squeeze names today. I don't, tough to really give color on that when there's no catalyst. I'm trying to think of some of the other. At least I robots going, but gonna take a big move for my calls. Come back to life on those. Um, I think that's it, folks. What else did I want to watch today? It's 2:05. Yeah. So hopefully the small caps can close in the green. Would be a good sign into tomorrow. We get decent, at least in line or cooler than expected CPI numbers at 8:30, and then the Fed. So you got the statement, which is going to be any surprise. We're going to have crazy volatility. If they cut rates, I think the market will sell off. If they raise rates, the market will sell off. So you just want no rate cuts, no rate hikes, and then you want a dovish spin a little bit by Powell, and I think the markets will be SPY maybe 540 or so. So, but it could be volatile. We've seen some knee-jerk reactions. The SPY could be trading at 536. Statement comes out, it goes down to 532. Powell comes on, it goes up to 538, and right. So it's going to be volatile. So it's definitely probably want to be around for that. So that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. Thanks for listening. Rock and roll.